At the moment within Jujutsu Kaisen, we would be at a massive turning point. The story is about to change and morph and introduce a litany of brand new things to completely revolutionize how we see things, how we take into consideration abilities and clans and bloodlines and what those bloodlines represent and what those specific bloodlines give birth to. The new world of Kaizen is currently being built, especially based off the recent chapter that came out a week or two ago. The revelation of Geto capturing Mahito is a pretty big deal. Mahito, for me, is someone that will not disappear easily. He is a character with so much potential and so much growth and has already experienced so much. Taking him out of the picture completely or killing him off for good is something that I feel would be a very massive and negative effect against what he represents within the story, what he represents with Yuji and how Yuji and Mahito basically parallel one another. However, taking him out of the picture to introduce the new world is something that I feel Geto is trying to set up. It's not like Mahito has been completely demolished and has disappeared for good, but now it seems he would be weaponized or at least even used against his own free will, which brings in a lot of interesting concepts and ideas that can be played around Mahito and how he doesn't necessarily like to conform to other people's ideas. He is well and truly his own character, his own mindset, his beliefs and what he wants to achieve is single to himself. He may coexist and co-work with the people surrounding him, but now in a time of need, now in a time of desperation, the two have ultimately split, Geto and Mahito. And the person that currently came out on top is obviously Geto. So later on down the line, you could probably easily expect some sort of confrontation between the two, unless Mahito himself is being set up to be used as some sort of vessel. And this comes into the form of bloodlines and who is actually controlling Geto. So even though the theory has been around for quite some time, if you don't technically want to be spoiled for the upcoming chapter, like I was on Twitter by accident, which kind of a little bit disappointing, but honestly not all too surprising, I'd recommend clicking off here. So who is going to introduce this new world into Kaizen? A world without Satoru Gojo, someone that upholds the balance between humans and curses alike. That person would be none other than Noritoshi Kamo. And no, it's not the blood manipulator user that we've seen within the Goodwill arc. It is the ancestor that existed around about 150 to 200 years ago. He was claimed to be one of, if not the most evil sorcerer within history. And there was a very specific reason for it, is because of his obsession with bloodlines and his research into the death painting wombs and the specific woman who gave birth to them. Now you may remember the death paintings being Chozo and those two others, but more importantly I want to stick to Chozo because of how incredibly authentic that character is and why I believe Chozo is going to be a very important character going forward into the story. I've always found Chozo very odd for the most part, and the most recent chapter definitely solidified my curiosity. He was way too human. Even though he was a death painting womb, the ability that he had is the prized technique from the Kamo family. So you could see how those two correlate. Person controlling Geto is theoretically Noritoshi Kamo, the most evil sorcerer in history, someone that's obsessed with the death painting wombs, who then eventually stole 3 death painting wombs through using Geto's body, to one of them being Chozo, who is extremely humanoid and possessing the exact same bloodline ability, which is the blood manipulation, that the Kamo clan considered their prized possession. Chozo blows a line between human and curse, and the more he comes through as a character, the more we play on him, and especially with the most recent chapter with that little insert of him self-internalizing about things, having some sort of existential crisis about what he is and where he comes from. When you start thinking about those things, when you get those thoughts running through your head, your understanding towards the world, towards yourself, and the ability to learn starts to become a lot more fruitful. By any means, if that channels a desire and brings it to the front, Chozo can be explored as a very unique type of character, very similar to Mahito, as the hypothetical projection rate of growth would be very similar. But what does this have to do with the new world that Kaizen is currently introducing? I think the most obvious and biggest thing is that Gojo is still sealed away, and we don't know how this is going to come to a conclusion. Does someone break Gojo out later on? Is there even someone that could break him out? Could Yuta do it? Could Yuji do it? Did they seal him away to break the balance of power, or is there more to it? At the moment, the only thing we know is that yes, Gojo is sealed away, and currently the power balance between the world is completely shifted. Gojo plays a very massive and important pillar whether he likes it or not. Him being alive and active stops curses like Mahito, for example, continuing to grow and evolve and to become very incredibly powerful individuals. One that inherently blur the line between human, shaman, and curse alike. This is the reason why Gojo was put on such a high pedestal, because his ability to nullify this growth for curses alike kept that balance of power, that the shamans would pretty much always be on top of things in terms of strength and ability and consistency compared to curses that are more dysfunctional and don't necessarily work together. But now that the pillar has crumbled and been sealed away, the opportunity for curses to continue to grow without interruption, without being killed off, and to even create armies and work with one another, the balance that the shamans had is going to be overthrown. And the person spearheading this operation currently, from one perspective that we see, is most likely none other than Noritoshi Kamo, the ancestor, the most evil sorcerer or shaman in history. What is his goal? I'm actually not entirely all too sure. At the moment, I feel like resurrection would be the best thing. And the reason I say this is because I don't believe he has a body currently. And there's not really much evidence I can give for that other than just more so the legitimacy of him using Geto and why he would choose him out of all individuals. Obviously, there is traders and connections here. I think Noritoshi is in cahoots with the doctor at the school, and her interest in Yuji as a body or a vessel may directly correlate to what Noritoshi wants. He may want a vessel that he can theoretically be born back into instead of actually puppeteering another one. I wouldn't be surprised that how Noritoshi is using Geto currently isn't actually his ability, and that it most likely could be one of the traders, if not the doctor, that works within the school. So you take away Gojo, you allow curses to get extremely powerful, you manipulate them using Geto, who is probably the best person to do it, and then you find a vessel that could make your rebirth a possibility. Mahito could be a prime example of someone that is potentially too young and needs more time to flourish, but under the right guidance. It could be the reason why Geto, or should I say Noritoshi, sealed him away, so that he wouldn't go out of control and disappear in front of Geto's eyes. They may be building him up for that. Very similar to how Yuji and Sukuna kind of cooperate. That might have been their original goal. That might still be their goal currently. But if you were to parallel a Yuji and Sukuna with Mahito and Noritoshi, for example, then you'd have some very interesting things going on. Some parallels that would just explode and flourish into many beautiful things, because they obviously do that already, but taking it a step further is definitely there. I think Noritoshi being introduced legitimately is going to change a lot of different things, and I am extremely excited to see what new world Jujutsu Kaisen gives birth to. The powers will change, the curses will get stronger and more human-like, the shamans have to grow exponentially to parallel some of these more consistent curses that rise and grow very rapidly. The power balance is starting to shift now that Gojo is gone. Noritoshi can come back into the picture. Potentially an organization or group can come back into the picture, but Sukuna is still lingering. There's a lot of things with Yuji and Sukuna that's going to play a very unpredictable curveball, not only for Kaisen as a story, but for Noritoshi and everyone involved. They are extremely unpredictable. If Noritoshi is trying to mimic what Yuji is doing and trying to understand why a vessel like him worked, with one of, if not the most powerful curse to ever exist, you can imagine the person that is obsessed with death painting wombs and the woman that gave birth to them. He's obviously going to be interested in Yuji and Sukuna and how they coexist, and how he can weaponize or utilize or mimic it to whatever degree, how he can potentially put himself in that position to overthrow or override a body so he can take over that power and grow further. All of this is taking place while the shaman world is trying to keep up to date with this power structure being completely reformed and brutally skewered. It's going to be very interesting to see where we go from here, as this is only a small specific part of what to expect, but I for one couldn't be more than excited for it. So with that being said, that is basically it. Let me know what you think the new world of Jujutsu Kaisen is going to look at, and how do you feel towards Narutoshi and his plans or ideals or what he wants to do. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Drink plenty of water, and I will see you within the next one. Goodbye.